So today I have, gosh, my hair. So today I have a list today for you. I've got a list today, and it is what I consider the top 10 best Disney villain sidekicks and the top 10 worst Disney villain sidekicks. And I chose sidekicks because A, me and my dad were having a conversation about it one day in the truck when he was taking me to school before quarantine started. And B, because I feel like the sidekicks aren't talked about as much as like the heroes and the villains and stuff, and I feel like the villain sidekicks especially aren't really mentioned a whole ton, and they're all just kind of forgotten. And also, I apologize if you hear music in the background. My sister listens to music when she is in the shower. She's currently taking a shower. So how we're gonna do this is we're gonna go from 10 to 1. We're going to start with the worst villain sidekicks so we can end on a good note, and then we will go 10 to 1 with the best villain sidekicks. And before I start this, I just want to say that all of this is my personal opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions and whatnot, and if you think different villain sidekicks should be on this list or should be in other places on this list, that's all fine by you. You can leave it in the comment section below. I'd love to read your opinions and maybe edit what I have depending on what more information I have. Because it's currently, what time is it? It's currently 9 o'clock at night, and that's not a whole really that much late-ish sort of, but everything's just kind of weird right now, and my sleep schedule is just whenever the heck I feel like it. So, again, my personal opinion, you have your own opinion, let me know down in the comment section below if you feel like it, but we're gonna go ahead and start this. Alright, so number 10 on our worst Disney villains list is Wiggins from 1995 Pocahontas. Now Wiggins, he is a very funny character. Like, he is really funny. But he's not in the movie a whole ton, and when he is in the movie, he doesn't contribute a lot. From what I remember from Pocahontas, the most he did in the movie was bathe the dog and put armor on Ratcliffe. Other than that, he didn't really do a whole ton, and he was just kind of genuinely useless throughout the whole movie. Number 9 is Creeper from 1985's The Black Cauldron, which is a very underrated movie, and I highly suggest it. But Creeper is not one of the reasons I highly suggest it, because Creeper is the most useless henchman that the Horn King has. The most he does is repeat things that the Horn King has already said, but in kind of like a gross, weird sort of manner. He also cowers before the Horn King multiple times. Like, whenever they're both on screen together, Creeper is just endlessly cowering towards him, and like, he's got a lot of self-loathing, and he chokes himself constantly. And at first you kind of feel bad, but then it gets kind of annoying, and you're kind of just like, why is this character still alive? And the worst part is, I don't remember if he dies or not. Number 8 we have here is Lawrence from 2009's The Princess and the Frog. Lawrence was originally Prince Naveen's accomplice or assistant, but at the first sight of Goldie Ridges, he takes Naveen's place. Not cool, man. And this is actually the perfect setup for like a Disney villain, or at least a Disney villain sidekick, which is what he is. But the way it's executed is actually very poorly. Now, this movie is fantastic. I really like this movie. I just don't like Lawrence. Not even in the slightest. He's like my least favorite character of the whole movie. The most Lawrence did to assist Dr. Facilier was extract blood from Naveen. That was basically it. Everything else he did for himself, which I can kind of understand, as most sidekicks are only in it for what they're getting out of it and whatnot, but if you're gonna be a sidekick to a Disney villain, be a little bit more useful than just extracting blood so you can look like the guy you're trying to impersonate. Number 7 is actually 3 people, because they're all kind of grouped together, and they're not people. It's Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed from 1994's The Lion King. And before I start talking about these 3, I need to say, I don't like The Lion King. It is not my most favorite movie, but it's not my least favorite either. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I just don't like this. And these 3, along with the rest of the hyenas, are one of the main reasons why I don't like this movie. Because they're annoying, and they're loud, and especially Ed, they're kind of stupid. Like, they don't really understand what's going on. Like, I get it. They've been banished to the elephant graveyard and whatnot, and they're having a hard time finding food. And I get it, but that's not a reason to be annoying, and if you're gonna take over a lion pride, be a little bit more aware of what's happening and what's going on. They're also basically Nazis, which doesn't sit well with me. I just don't like them. Number 6 is Sir Hiss from 1973's The Robin Hood, and all this freaking snake did was hypnotize Prince John. Like, he couldn't even be bothered to at least make a greater attempt to tell Prince John that, hey, that bird guy in the archery competition, yeah, that's Robin Hood. That's the guy you're trying to kidnap. He gets his head stuck in a balloon at one point, and that's how he kind of finds out. But then when he's going to tell Prince John about it, he gets kidnapped, and he's a snake. He can just slither out of someone's grasp. Does he? No. Like, I get it's for plot convenience, but Disney, please remember that snakes can slither out of people's grasps unless you're holding them, like, by a chokehold. Which Friar Lawrence, whatever his name was it Friar Lawrence? No, I think that was Roman. With the friar's name, whatever it is, that guy, he wasn't really holding him all that hard. That snake could have easily slipped out of that grasp. It's just, whatever. Okay, number 5 is the Wiley or the Willy brothers from 2004's Home on the Range. I have not seen this movie in a really long time. And these 3 are 3 blonde brothers that really live up to the stereotype of their hair color, because they're just flat out dumb and stupid. At least one of them has been standing in the same spot every single time they meet together, right in front of a map, conveniently covering up a specific part of the map that was somehow in the perfect shape of his head. I don't know, I didn't make this movie. And no one thought to tell Alameda Slim about this place. So when he did find out about it, kind of upset, like, oh crap, we missed this one portion. There's hair in my eyes and I cannot remove it. You know, he wasn't that mad about it, but again, these 3 are just really living up to that whole blonde people are stupid stereotype, and they're dumb and they don't contribute anything. Number 4, I'm gonna butcher this most likely, is Roscoe and DeSoto from 1988's Oliver and Company. Granted, have not seen this movie in a really long time either, even longer than it's been since I've seen Home on the Range. But from what I do remember from this movie, all these dogs did was chase a couple of other dogs and a cat, and then later they got hit by like a car or a train or something. That's all I remember. So clearly, if that's all I remember, they didn't contribute much either. None of these seem to contribute a whole ton. Okay, number 3 is Mr. Snoops from 1977's The Rescuers. And Snoop's main fault is that he isn't assertive. He tried for actual months to get Penny to go down and stay down in a mine to find a diamond, and he failed to the point where Medusa got fed up with him and went and got Penny down there to get the diamond herself. It also doesn't help Snoop's case that he's afraid of crocodiles and he works for a lady who has crocodiles and they need to be taken care of and whatnot. The crocodiles are better sidekicks than the guy who can actually speak and talk and do stuff. And all these crocodiles did was recapture Penny when she tried to run away and tried to eat the mice, which made them better sidekicks than Mr. Snoops, but unfortunately they're not on either of these lists. Number 2 is Jasper and Horace from 1961's 101 Dalmatians. Now, I hate Jasper and Horace, and it makes me sad, because Cruella de Vil is my favorite Disney villain, and I'm upset that she got stuck with these 2 mumbling idiots for sidekicks. They were literally given one task, which was kind of a big task, but it was still only one task, and it was to kidnap the puppies, keep them, and kill them once there were enough puppies to make the coat. They did manage to kidnap the puppies, so I will give them that much. But once they did, they almost immediately got drunk and fell asleep and lost not 1, not 15, but 99 puppies. You guys are humans. You're supposed to be the smart ones in the food chains. And you lost 99 puppies. And it really doesn't help that in the second movie, they did the exact same thing. Kidnapped the 99 dogs, and then basically got drunk, fell asleep, and lost all of them again. Number 1, worst Disney villain sidekick, in my opinion, is Sir Kay from 1963's The Sword in the Stone. And if it weren't for Sir Kay, Jasper and Horace would be number 1 on this list. Sir Kay's main purpose in The Sword of the Stone is to be the Gaston of that movie. He thinks he's all powerful and great just because he's strong and he has muscles. And Kay and his father are constantly picking on Arthur for no reason other than he's small. And this really strikes me on almost like a personal level, because I consider myself to be very frail and small, and I just don't like it when people are mean based off of physical traits alone. I don't like it when people are mean in general, but especially just on physical traits alone. It peeves me. So now we're going to move on to the top 10 best Disney villain sidekicks, in my opinion. And number 10 is Lucifer from 1950's Cinderella. Now, Lucifer, honestly speaking, he didn't really do much. But the little that he did do was actually significant. He assisted in making Cinderella's life absolutely miserable. He tried eating the mice multiple times, and if he did eat the mice, then Cinderella would have never escaped, and we would have probably had the third movie a lot sooner. Speaking of the third movie, in the third movie, he was given the simple task of, by the stepmother, he was given the simple task of, hey, drive this carriage. I'm going to turn you into a human. You're going to drive this carriage, and you're going to make sure these people don't come back alive. Albeit, he did fail at making sure they didn't come back alive. But this is Disney movies we're talking about, so obviously the hero is going to win at one point. Number 9 is Iago from 1992's Aladdin. Iago did a lot. He managed to get Jafar the lamp by the end of the movie, and he also gave Jafar the idea to marry Jasmine himself so that he could become sultan. The only reason Iago abandoned Jafar was because Jafar was about to be stuck in a lamp for all eternity. And honestly, how many of us would nope out of that situation as well? I know I would nope out of that situation. Second movie was kind of odd, so we're not going to bring that into this, but Iago, number 9, he's cool with me. Number 8 is the Stabbington Brothers from 2010's Tangled. Stabbington Brothers didn't really become sidekicks until the deal with Gothel also included revenge on Flynn Rider. They were good at convincing Rapunzel that Flynn had left her. The only really fault I can think of them having was that they crossed the line too far with Gothel, in which they tried to kidnap Rapunzel for themselves. Which, I mean, she does have magical golden hair that will keep you young forever and will heal you. But if you're working with a woman and that's her daughter, that's not a good idea. Number 7 is Smee from 1953's Peter Pan. Smee, admittedly, has about as much intelligence as a broken clock. But what puts him at number 7 on this list is his willingness to try. He tried his hardest to help Captain Hook with his plans in any of the Peter Pan movies. In the first, he helped Hook calm down from the TikTok crocodile. In the second, he helped kidnap Jane. And in the movie Hook, he gives Captain Hook the idea to make Peter Pan's kids love Hook to the point where they don't want to go home with their dad. They probably won't even remember their dad. And that plan almost worked. But again, this is Disney movies, so the villain can't win in Disney movies. Is Smee stupid? Yes. Does he try and put up with a lot? Also yes. Number 6 is Flotsam and Jetsam from 1989's The Little Mermaid. Flotsam and Jetsam are the loyal eels to the sea witch Ursula. They're the ones that convince Ariel that Ursula is her only chance at seeing and being with Eric. They also tip over the boat before Eric and Ariel can kiss, therefore kind of destroying Ursula's entire plan, and they almost drown Eric as well. Which, how many sea creatures do you know are willing to drown land creatures, for other people? Not a whole ton, I don't think, but I'm not a marine biologist. And it's almost kind of a shame that they blew up, because they were very helpful, and I'm sure they would have been very helpful in the second movie. But again, they blew up and Ursula died, so I don't even know why we have a second and a third movie. Number 5 is LeFou from 1991's The Beauty and the Beast. LeFou is much like Smee, ready to assist Gaston in his devilish plans. The only reason he's higher on this is because LeFou is actually a tad bit smarter. He sticks outside Belle's house until she returns and helps rally the town into killing the beast. LeFou also sings an entire song that does nothing but praise Gaston, and it's such a bop. Like, I don't know how many all of the Disney Villain songs are such a bop, but how many of them are sung by the sidekicks and are still such a bop? I can only really think of 2, and Gaston is one of them. Number 4 is Pain and Panic from 1997's Hercules. Pain and Panic, admittedly, are really dumb and klutzy, and they did royally screw up in killing Hercules. But when the time came for it, they did rise back up to the challenge. There's hair all over my face and my head. They did rise up back to the challenge. They transformed into 2 little boys stuck under a rock and delivered a convincing performance that everybody who didn't know that they were Pain and Panic were absolutely convinced, hey, these are 2 little boys stuck under a rock. They later turned into a very convincing horse and kidnapped Pegasus so that Hercules couldn't have any help. Is it kind of their fault that Hercules managed to beat every challenge? Yeah. Did they make up for it with the previous things that I've mentioned and their humor, which is also on point? Also, yeah. Number 3 is Kronk from 2000's Emperor's New Groove. Kronk is only number 3 because he's funny, devoted, and helpful. The humor in Emperor's New Groove is on point with well-delivered lines and perfect timing, mostly delivered by Kronk. He also doesn't give up on Yzma until it comes to killing someone, and she insults him in one shot, saying that he's a dumb, stupid monkey, and oh, I never really liked your spinach puffs anyways, which, if you're gonna insult someone's cooking, you better be ready to catch these knives, because that's what you're getting. Kronk's helpfulness is shown by him willingly carrying Yzma in a small tent on his back through the woods. Now, I'm not an expert at judging how much people weigh just by looking at them, and Yzma is actually relatively skinny. But a small tent with a chair and a couple of other objects to survive in the woods, and a map, and a frail old lady, and you have to make sure that that frail old lady doesn't break any bones, while running through the woods to find the actual Emperor. Seems like a difficult task, but Kronk does it willingly, and it might be because that he is as strong as an ox, he looks like he's as strong as an ox, that he does it so effortlessly, and that's why he's so willing to do it, but you know he's still willing to do it, and Kronk is, without a doubt, one of the best Disney villain sidekicks, and probably one of the best Disney sidekicks in general. But that's a list for another day. Number 2 is Nathaniel from 2007's Enchanted. And this is sad. Enchanted is a movie that's actually very easily forgotten, and Nathaniel is one of the greatest parts of this movie. He's ready and willing to obey Queen Nerissa and fall down a mysterious well which leads nowhere to go after Giselle. And while he doesn't really succeed in getting rid of Giselle, you can't really blame him. He is a fairy tale character who is used to working by fairy tale world standards, who's been thrown into the real world where those same standards don't work. Random women aren't going to take a random apple from a random stranger in the real world. That's how bad things happen. In the fairy tale world, that's kind of how good things happen, so any woman's going to be willing to do that. And that's one of the points that makes this movie so good, is it's throwing fairy tale characters into a real world and throwing them off a whole ton. Nerissa does turn into a dragon, so that's also cool. And Nathaniel does end up ratting Nerissa out in the end, but that's only because he had a change of heart, blah, 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 mushy stuff that we're not going to get into. We're going to focus on the fact that he willingly went into a well that led to who knows where, and did his best following real-world standards because he didn't have fairy tale world standards. And finally, the number 1 best Disney villain sidekick, in my opinion, is Diablo from 1959's Sleeping Beauty. He is the best Disney villain sidekick ever. When all hope is lost for Maleficent in finding Aurora, she turns to her faithful bird, and what does he do? He finds the princess, the same day. Whereas all of her other minions literally failed to find her for 16 years because they were all stupid. He also wakes up Maleficent when Philip is escaping with the fairies. Without him, she probably never would have known that they escaped, and suddenly wakes up and is like, oh my gosh, why is everything fixed? He doesn't even need to say anything for the audience to know that this is the bird. This bird is the creature that Maleficent trusts more than anyone and anything else. Diablo isn't really just her pet. Diablo's kind of like her best friend. The person who's willing to go to heck and back just for her. Get y'all a Diablo in this world. So anyways, that is my list for the top 10 worst Disney villain sidekicks, the top 10 best Disney villain sidekicks. Again, I've said this 100 times probably at this point. This is all my opinion. If you have different opinions and different points on why you think certain villains should or should not be on this list, or should not be where they are on this list, I'd love to read them in the comment section down below. Maybe in a year or so, I'll revise this list when more Disney movies have come out and we've got more information on Disney villains, sidekicks, and we got more Disney villain sidekicks. Who knows? But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to start posting on my YouTube channel more regularly from here on out.